I saw something on Channel 4 like the other day where like a presenter on there was literally forced to do the Gangnam Style during a news report. You could tell our boss was just like, do it.
Just do it.
Have you ever seen the...
Ride the horse, they like it. That was my first dance at my wedding, that was, Dan.
Was it?
It was indeed, sir.
No, I wasn't invited to. You didn't really know me then, did you?
No, well, Matt was invited and he didn't go.
No.
So,
Was that?
yeah, everyone from the shop wasn't. Nobody turned up.
Go.
Hello and welcome to Gachapod, your fortnightly slice of weird pop culture shit where we, where Matt likes to dive into something heavily researched. I sit and make very crude jokes about it, and then Dan wonders why he's friends with either of us. I am Drew the Hedgehog, joined with my co-host Matt the Hedgehog.
Hello.
And Dan the Hedgehog.
You alright?
And if you've not guessed already, this week we're talking about everyone's favourite video game mascot, Bubsy.
Yeah, but just brought the wrong notes.
Is this the Knuckles episode that you've been talking about so much?
No, that's the next episode.
What about Shadow?
No.
Okay.
No, we'll get on to Shadow. lads.
We'll get on to Shadow. How
Don't
exciting.
you worry about it. But yeah, we are talking about Sega's beloved blue mascot today. It's recently had a film released, would you know?
I was going to say, it's definitely not...
Matthew's trousers have only just dried, otherwise we would have recorded
He's
this
had
earlier
a
on.
week off work. He looks anemic.
Yeah, he walks like John Wayne now.
I finished to say that because in the after credit sequence turned up, I actually wet myself.
What happens well, no, we can't, I guess. No, this isn't going to be out for a few weeks. It's fucking spoiler alert, what happens in the after credit sequence? I don't care, I'm not going to say it.
Well, Tails
Yeah.
turns up in the after credit sequence.
Oh,
And he's looking for Sonic.
okay.
Great.
Great.
It was cool. He looked really nice. He was really
Now-
cool. He had a good, decent voice as well.
When a girl wears one of those butt plugs with the tails on,
Oh, I don't like where this is going. Go on.
does that get your...
No, Daniel.
Okay, cool. Just needed to know. Just needed to get that out in the open.
So you can take it out now, it's not going to do anything for him. I know it's hurting when you sit. So.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I tried
Anyway.
to sit down with a tail, it's really annoying. You don't know where do you put it?
I guess
Then
it's...
I want you to ask a fucking fox next time.
Ooh. God, look at that. You start shitting on Sonic and look at how aggressive he gets.
He's only going to get more upset from here.
This is the final podcast.
There'll be an entire range of
I
emotions.
mean, before we get started, perhaps we should touch briefly on personal histories with the character, because some of us are more invested in others in the history
Yeah.
of this particular franchise. Dan, you were saying earlier it's the first game you ever completed?
Sonic 2 is the first game I ever completed.
You platinumed
The
it,
only
mate.
game I ever
Yeah,
completed.
the platinum on the Mega Drive, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Because it was the pack-in, I think, wasn't it, for a lot of Mega Drives? As in, like, the game that came bundled with
Oh,
the
yeah.
console,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
pretty much
yeah.
everyone had it. I'm sure we'll touch on that later on. So yeah, I think if you owned a Mega Drive, if you didn't own a Mega Drive, you probably played Sonic the Hedgehog at someone's house at some point.
That's
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
My first copy of Sonic the Hedgehog was on the Game Gear, because I had
Oh,
a Game Gear
Gear.
before I had a Mega
Jesus
Drive.
Christ.
So yeah, that was me sitting 3 foot away from a wall because it had to be plugged in at all times.
You know how
blasting
bad that
through.
is, because I don't even fucking mention the Game Gear in this.
It was all I knew. It was all I knew. And that was the only game I had for it. And my mum refused to buy me another game until I'd completed Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's not an easy game either.
It's not, no. And me being like a dumbass 6-year-old.
like that.
Yeah,
That
but me being a
type of
dumbass
parenting.
6-year-old, she wouldn't have checked. At any
Yeah.
point I could have gone, yeah, done it. Beaten all the big robots.
Complete it, Mum.
Yeah, done it,
Instead,
Mum.
you actually completed it. and then
Instead,
got
I
another game.
don't remember. I don't think I ever did. And to this day, it's the only video game I've ever played because Mum won't buy me anymore. But yeah, that was kind of my. I mean, you know, later on I had the Mega Drive, and so I had Sonic, and then eventually Sonic and Knuckles, which is the girl cartridge that you can fuck with a boy cartridge.
Yep, we'll get onto that.
Yeah. So I had that, and I didn't quite understand what happened and how it works and everything else. And I had a Master System at some point, and had the shitty downgrade version of Sonic with that as well. But yeah, I think that was more or less it. I mean, I read the British comics for a while as well, which we'll talk about.
Banging.
Yeah, and I watched like a fuck ton of Sonic Boom when my daughter was like 2 months old because I was exhausted and I didn't quite know what to put on the television, and I think they was just on Netflix, and it was
They
actually
get a lot of stuff with the censorship on Sonic Boom, if I recall.
it was
as well, actually.
I think I sort of just had it on just as background noise, and then as far as like kind of like French Canadian produced cartoons go, it actually had a pretty good sense of humour to it. I mean, it looked like shit, but like the writing was actually pretty good, pretty sophisticated jokes wise.
There's no adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, that's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd say far and away the biggest fan of the franchise as a whole would be you, Matthew. I mean, you've got that.
Oh really? No, I've just got a.
You've got that back piece, haven't you?
He's finally got a tattoo.
Yeah.
I've got a tramp stamp of Sonic.
No, it's a full back piece. He looks like an autistic Yakuza member.
And the problem is, he got the tattoo after the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer.
Yes.
And now Sonic's changed.
So it's got the wrong eyes.
Yeah.
It's got the bad eyes.
The bad eyes. You've got bad Sonic. Yeah, well, I guess we'll get into it. I mean, I've Sonic kind of surrounded me my entire life, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Looking back at like family photos and stuff, I don't think there was a photograph without me wearing some Sonic item in it as well.
He had blue hair at one point as well.
I did have blue hair at one point, not because of that.
Sure.
It's because I was an edgy teen.
Wasn't because you had to go fast.
No.
No, he's never been fast. Did you enjoy my abuse the other day?
Oh, was that because I said that I'd never run before?
Yeah.
Well, you never seen me run.
I've never seen him run.
That because I just
Puts his
literally
arms
just ran
out to
home
the
for the
side.
XLR cable.
Yeah, and you took fucking forever.
He puts his arms out to the side like Naruto when he does it. It's adorable.
It's funny because everybody calls it the Naruto run, but I'm like, Sonic did it first.
Oh, I guess he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Does he run with his arms out the side in that sort of
To a degree, I'd say.
faux 3D
Yeah.
thing? Yeah.
Can this be another episode of the podcast? Who did the run first?
Who does the Naruto run first? We'll do an online poll. Get two super weird groups of fans arguing against each other.
You should have heard what he said about K-pop earlier. Bloody hell.
I said the girls in BTS are fit and I would do all of them, Dan. What's wrong with that? Neither of you have corrected me on it, so I don't see what the issue is. They're all really hot. I quite like the androgynous looking girls in K-pop and BTS.
Like I said, it all originated from the Crazy Frog.
Yeah.
Sure it did.
I've upset loads of people there.
Did you know whilst I was doing this piece as well, I listened to most of the official soundtracks
Did you?
as well. I had to get into it, obviously. God. I mean,
Did you
just
type
have some
faster
bangers.
because of it?
Yeah, of course I did.
Okay.
Does that much chiptune not make your teeth hurt after a while? I mean, I enjoy it, but
No, it doesn't actually.
no, it doesn't. It's what I hear in my head at night anyway.
It took speed just because you wanted to make him into Sonic.
Didn't turn out the way I'd hoped. But anyway, to properly kick off things, we need to actually discover why like Sonic made his appearance in the early 90s as well.
Right.
It was all Nintendo's fault, essentially, because they were making waves with Mario on the NES. Sega were lagging behind the Nintendo Entertainment System and needed a competitor once they heard that Nintendo were making the move to 16-bit. And Sega had a bit of success with like some of their Disney titles as well, because Disney used to help with the licensing for the Sega as well.
Of course, yeah.
But Alex Kidd was their only mascot at the time as well. Alex Kidd, I don't know if you do you know who he
Yeah,
looks
I'm
like?
aware of it,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's just a chimp. Just
Yeah.
a chimp man boy thing. It's just yeah, they needed a new mascot
bit
desperately.
shit.
Just a bit shit,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah, exactly. So basically, Sega of Japan started an internal contest to find a new mascot. You'll find this is a recurring theme contest in Sega of Japan.
Internal contest.
It's accurate for the time as well, isn't it?
Pick your hedgehog.
So they're like, right, what is the antithesis of a fat Italian plumber? And go.
Which is funny to say that because when you think about it, that's kind of what they wanted to go against as well.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it was slow.
that was the primary.
it.
Yeah, they were trying
Yeah.
to steal some of the market away from Nintendo with
That's it.
an edgy mascot.
Some of the designs weren't great, and you can actually find some of these, I think, on a website called Sega Retro. It's just designs for an armadillo and a rabbit. Can't imagine how that would have like sounded now as well. Like, let's go to the cinemas to watch Armadillo. Like, you know, Sonic the Armadillo.
There's got to be an armadillo in the Sonic universe at this point, though. There's definitely a rabbit.
Yeah, definitely a rabbit, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any like armadillo. Oh no, wait, no, I can't.
Oh, there we go.
Of course, yeah, no. Anyway, onwards.
He just has to quickly check his mental filing cabinet whether that is an official character or one created by one of the many websites he subscribes to.
Yes, I have many. 5 people were actually tasked with the new design for this mascot. and it was a designer called Naoto Oshima that finally came up with the concept of Sonic the Hedgehog, which at the time was just called Mr. Needle Mouse.
Nice.
As well.
Is that the translation of hedgehog?
Yeah, that's
I'm
right,
resisting
that's the
doing the
translation.
voice
Yeah.
so much right now. I hope you're appreciating that.
Thank you,
Yep.
sir.
That's right, I resisted an autism joke earlier, so don't worry.
Mr. Needlemus. Sorry, that's the only one. I won't do it again.
Mr. Needle Mouse was based on a fictional World War II fighter pilot, strangely enough.
It
As well.
sounds like a Jewish superintendent.
Yeah,
Like someone
yeah.
who'd look after an apartment building that you'd have to call when you get a... You need to call Mr. Needlemus.
So he's wearing a
now.
wife beater that's stained.
Yeah, basically.
And this fictional World War II fighter pilot was actually called Hedgehog the Human as well. And he was
Strap in,
renowned.
boys.
He was renowned for his quick flying and spiky hair as well.
Right.
Thankfully, before finalising this concept as well, Oshima took his designs to Central Park whilst on holiday, where he asked children which design they liked the most. What we had was a hedgehog, a dog, and an old man as well.
Good job it was the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
Be
Well,
arrested.
Yeah. They all preferred the hedgehog as well, actually. But the man with the moustache came second.
Yes, again, kind of going back to we need a rival for the Nintendo mascot, and they were just like, I don't know, like another chubby dude with a tash.
Yes.
Kids really like chubby middle-aged men with moustaches, don't they? That's who they want as their cipher character, their
hindsight.
avatar in the computer game world.
How the
bizarre.
fuck did that work?
What, Mario? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a whole different podcast,
Yeah.
isn't it? But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's bizarre how they came to a mascot like that, to be honest, and how it's worked for so long as well. But obviously, we know what happened to that man with the moustache as well.
Yep.
He became Eggman, or as we also know, Mr. Robotnik, or as we also know, sorry, I'm pushing up the glasses right now, Dr. Kintuber.
Dr. Ivo Kintoba. Oh, I can't wait till we get to the origin story.
This isn't the origin story? Fucking
No, sir.
No. But yeah, actually, the design was really simple for Sonic as well, and this was because they wanted a character that kids could draw as well, like me.
Oh, that was my thing. That was my thing in year 5.
I think it was every kid's thing.
No, it wasn't. It was my thing.
Sorry.
I originated it.
I think you had like one per school was the allotment, and I was like the guy who could draw a good Sonic at school.
Yeah.
To the point that I would
Yeah.
have people coming up to me asking me to draw a Sonic for them. In no way did that impact my choice of career or hobby later in life.
I just had pogs.
You just had a pogs.
I just had pogs, innit?
I always kind
Pogs
of
in.
considered myself all right with this contest at school, but there was a girl whose mum worked at the school as well, so whenever we had a competition, she always fucking win as well.
Nepotism.
Outrageous, yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
What about my Sonic egg I made for Easter?
But Matthew, you keep drawing them with big penises. This is the 4th time we've had to call your parents.
Makes them go faster. Oshima worked with other important people behind Sonic's creation as well, such as game director Hirokazu Yasuhara, game programmer Yuji Naka, his name will come up multiple times throughout this, and 2 designers called Jinya Ito and Raiko Kodama as well. All of these guys together were actually called the Sonic team as well.
Nice.
Yuji Naka, as I said, he will turn up multiple times throughout this episode as well, and I was graced with a fancy Yuji Naka Dreamcast when I was a teenager too as well. I entered a competition for a newspaper, essentially, which I'd forgotten about. And then one day, I don't even think anybody knocked on the door. There was just a massive box left outside my front door. And
The competition was send in a photo of yourself and we'll see who we feel the most sorry for. And there's Matt just surrounded by all of his gear and no friends.
I've got some awful, depressing stories about childhood birthdays where I'm just like, I think I've told you, Drew, multiple times as well, and I'm like, sit down and watch James and the Giant Peach with me.
Yes, you told me about that. You've told me about the moths in the sleepover
Yes,
as well.
yes.
Boy,
yes.
oh boy, it's a wonder he's as adjusted as he is.
Yeah. Let's
Frank-
not.
Some may disagree.
Yeah. Let's not go there. We've not got time.
The Sonic team kept their plans under wraps for a short period of time as well before unveiling sketches and ideas at a Sega pitch, which even included a little Sonic plush they made as well, which was made to show off their merchandising potential as well, which was really smart of them as well. Because obviously you can show a bunch of people the sketches, but the second you show a little shitty toy, that's it. They go,
Mate,
"Oh, money."
I would posit that possibly my happiest childhood memory is receiving a Sonic the Hedgehog plush on
Yes,
Christmas morning
yes, yeah.
in what would be 95, 5 maybe, something like that. Like there are photos of me literally rolling around on the floor like I'm having some sort of fit because I'm delighted at this fucking stuffed toy that I've got.
I've still got mine.
No shit.
And unsurprisingly, Sega of Japan loved this idea as well. Sonic was a cool new mascot that had a ton of potential for their upcoming console, the new Sega Mega Drive. But Sega of America didn't feel the same way. The CEO at the time, Michael Katz, received the faxes featuring Sonic's designs and he went fucking nuts. He listed the top 10 reasons as to why it would fail.
Have you got them?
No, I've not got them, unfortunately, because Katz didn't stick around.
Right. There was like a full-on 180, wasn't there? Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yes, there was. Because Katz was the person responsible for the advert. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Yes.
Jesus.
So it's a bizarre campaign because it's not something you'd see nowadays as well. I think, like two different companies like waging war against each other.
No, litigation would just
stop
that in its tracks.
Yeah. But I mean, Genesis do what Nintendo don't, and we all know how that ended anyway as well. And during a shake-up at Sega of America, Katz would actually end up losing his job to former Mattel CEO Tom Kalinske. And whilst Kalinske didn't outright despise Sonic's design, he actually did ask his own design team to help tweak it for mass market appeal. So therefore, Sonic's spikes became softer, his sharp fangs were removed, and Eggman would end up being a little bit rounder as well. Understandably though, the Sonic team did not care for America's redesigns. Oshima was mad. Because he even designed Sonic for a Western audience as well. That was the intention. And while Sonic's design in the actual video game was set upon, there would be at least a few differences in the packaging of the game in each country as well. And I agree with Sega of America as well, because I've seen some of the original sketches as well with Sonic with fangs as well, when there's too much spiky hair too. This wasn't friendly enough.
A bit too evil looking though.
Yeah, a bit too evil looking. And they had some bizarre ideas. They were like, Sega's in a rock band as well. I mean, sure, Sega.
Sure, okay.
Let's
give him normal traits and personality facts, like love of chili dogs or
yeah, exactly.
Red shoes.
When that happened in the film, when he ate a chili dog, I nudged Anna on there. I was like, "Hey, look, they're doing the thing."
We're all me and Drew are both shaking our heads.
Despite the design they came up with, though, how would it actually work in a game? How would they play Sonic in a video game? Because Sonic is supposed to be fast. And how could you wear that up? Because the Mario games as well, they were relatively slow. All NES and Mega Drive games were relatively slow as well.
Yeah, there were moments where you build up speed, but for the most part, you kind of, apart from even auto scroll levels aren't moving particularly quickly.
No, that's it.
There's a sense of pressure there, but you're generally more or less ambling on at a fairly even pace.
Yes,
for the most part.
Yeah, you are.
But yeah, I mean, when I think that was what took a lot of people in, was just the
sheer speed
of the game, particularly when you go into tunnels and things the screens would just fucking whip along to the point that you couldn't really see clearly what was happening at the time.
Yeah, and it's Yuji Naka, the programmer at the time, he was to thank for all of that, because he was the person that found the right balance between the slowdown sections. He invented the concepts such as the badniks as well, and the way rings were used as well. On top of that, entire rotating stages, which had never ever been seen before too as well. Just a whole bunch of brand new concepts which they were planning for this game.
Is he the guy that did the foot tapping if you leave him standing still for more than 10 seconds? Blew my goddamn mind, that did. I remember fetching him up with me. Look at that! Look at that! He's pissed off that I'm not playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Yuji Naka did that, because he's not well liked amongst some people in the development team anyway. And after developing all of this as well, all the game needed now was music, and they went with a guy called Misato Nakamura, who is from the hugely popular Japanese band Dreams Come True. Nakamura went on to produce the music for Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 before splitting from Sega due to financial disagreements for the third game. And funnily enough, I actually prefer the music from the third game. The first and second have some solid music, but the third one's much better.
Green Hill Zone's the only one that automatically springs to mind.
Yeah,
I think it would do for most people.
Yes, yeah.
But I can credit the man with creating the most anxiety-inducing piece of music.
The drowning.
To the point that if you play it for me, my heart rate will automatically spike, and I will start to feel unwell. And yeah, it's that. I'm getting ill thinking about it. Watching his little face as he drowns.
And he goes, what?
And knowing it's my fault.
Yeah, you killed Sonic. I'd cry for the entire evening and not go back to it anyway. Nakamura actually went on to produce music for Dance Dance Revolution as well.
Okay.
Funnily enough, and he did return to Sonic the Hedgehog in the 2006 game with rapper Akon. And that says
Sonic 2006, that's the one that's everyone's favourite, right? That's the one that's universally beloved. Is that the one where he fucks a woman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
On screen, Dan fucks a woman. You see it going in and everything.
Right. Okay. So my first question is: does he unzip like his skin?
I mean, Drew's exaggerating. I mean, there are like a kiss. There's a kiss.
There's a romance with a human woman.
Yeah.
Right,
There's
okay.
a kiss. And
So
Bit weird.
no. Okay. Go on. Carry on.
and then by the end of it, he makes a gape.
Aye.
That's an unlockable ending. That's the true ending.
Is it like the Lara Croft thing where you could put the you could get her naked at the end, couldn't you? If you had
It's
something
urban
or
myth,
other.
but yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah, but no,
Never
this one
did
was
it.
true. If you got 1,000 gold rings, you'd get to see her brown ring.
Nice.
Onwards.
Stop acting like you're not turned on.
He's gonna go home and get the old Dreamcast out and try it. just got to make sure.
Oh, Jesus. I've got a couple more pages of this abuse as well. But anyway, as Drew mentioned briefly as well just earlier, Sonic was actually bundled with the Sega Mega Drive as well upon its launch, which was really smart because the original plan was to have Altered Beast included, but I think it was the CEO of Sega of America that was like, no, we're not doing that. Japan was really mad with him coming in and changing that idea completely. Which is funny that because
Altered Beast's kind of a shit game. I don't know if you remember playing
exactly.
it. It ain't great.
No, it's not great. And the game was demoed in certain areas around the world before making its biggest splash at Electronics Consumer Show in Chicago in 1991. And as we say, we wouldn't get this nowadays. Basically, what they did at the show was they advertised Sonic the Hedgehog next to Super Mario on the same screen.
Wow.
So that was it. Like, people's focus obviously just always went to Sonic the
It's
Hedgehog.
just the
as
fucking
well.
90s, man. They just didn't give a flying fuck.
No.
Do you
Brutal.
remember? Do you remember the PlayStation campaign where they sent someone dressed as Crash Bandicoot to the Nintendo offices of America with a megaphone and were just like fucking calling out Nintendo?
That's very Monday Night Wars, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, but
Yes,
again, it's just
yeah.
this era of like, fuck it, anything goes, and I don't know if it was just like a mutual respect or a just kind of, it just wouldn't happen now. It absolutely would not
no.
happen.
And you can tell because things change for Sega and these sort of practices later on as well. But even the TV advertisements actually had salesmen like showcasing Mario on the SNES for $200, while Sonic was on the right for the Mega Drive advertised for $150. He's trying to get the viewer to buy Mario, and he's like, look at this shiny new game. And the guy's like, but I want that game. Like, you don't want that, buddy. You don't want that. That's uncool. Actually, the Sonic Mania parodies this as well, funny enough.
Right, okay.
Because I think when they had like the new game version come out, they had a salesperson advertise a new fake EA game.
Brilliant.
And it was like, basically, the more money you pour into this, you get better at the game.
He ain't wrong.
The advertisement as well for Sonic Mania even has a dude screaming the word Sega as well, if you recall.
No, I don't remember that.
Do you know, like sometimes like Sega, you'd start a game and you'd have the Sega scream.
Oh, I remember the Sega.
Oh no, there's another one that was more like high pitched, like Sega.
Oh no.
To help promote this game as well, Japan released a 3-part manga, and those filthy Westerners were treated to a small comic that introduced people to Sonic's world. This was sometimes placed into DC comic titles as well, and had no relation to the future like Archie or Fleetway comics too. And thanks to being bundled with the Sega Mega Drive and the stupid marketing strategy that they had, Sonic went on to sell a whopping 15 million copies worldwide.
Fucking
Fair
crazy.
play.
Yeah, insane.
It's like when, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, Prince put out his album Free with the Daily Mail.
Oh, yeah.
But each copy of the Daily Mail sold that day counted as an album sale.
Yeah.
So his album went platinum in a matter of hours
Yeah.
and became like the #1 on the Billboard charts selling album worldwide. It was like one of the highest selling albums of that year. Shit album. I love Prince, but not great. Like 2 good tracks on it at most. But the fact that it was just fucking just given away to all these right-wing gammons. Notable fans of pop artists,
absolutely,
Prince.
yeah.
I noticed that Drew got a little bit political before Dan did there as well.
I kept quiet deliberately.
He's rubbing off on
I don't want to be known as the just the political ranter.
Yeah.
I'm the left-wing Alex Jones.
Yeah, too late now, mate. 50 million copies as well. That's pretty decent, but that's a far cry from the Sonic Boom 2014 game, which sold a whopping 490,000 copies.
Man alive. The rest of them sitting in landfill somewhere next to copies of
yeah.
E.T. for the Atari.
We've got more listeners on that.
Yes. Sure we do.
If only that was true.
Yeah.
Tell your friends, kids. Tell your friends.
Like and subscribe. Oh, right, wrong thing.
And despite being on a 2-year-old system as well for the Mega Drive, it actually eventually beat the SNES one Christmas.
Wow.
And it took over 60% of the video game market at the time too. And despite these huge sales numbers and Sonic becoming an icon, Yuji Naka left Sonic Team, which was due to his salary or status. I think the second he saw 15 million copies selling, he was like, give me more money. And it's heavily rumoured that he's very difficult to work with as well, but still, he's always been an essential part of Sonic's success. And production quickly started for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as well, where some key Japanese developers were brought over to begin development. So they've flown them all the way to San Francisco. There were already plans to introduce a new character into this series, and Sega yet again held a contest for the best design. One of their designs was a turtle called Boomer. Boomer the turtle.
Okay, Boomer the turtle. Yeah.
We eventually got Tails, no surprise there, who was designed by a guy called Yasushi Yamaguchi, who wanted him to be called Miles Per Hour. Sega said no, but the cheeky little bastard snuck it in anyway.
That's his real name, isn't it?
Yeah,
Tails is his nickname. In the same way that I'm sure you get to it, but like the Eggman thing, where they basically say that Eggman is his nickname, and then
yes, I think it was an anime. I think he gave the nickname Eggman,
something like that. Yeah.
It's, which comes as no surprise to some people, I guess, but the Japanese and the Americans clashed big time with their work ethic as well. Meetings were mostly held in Japanese, so that confused a bunch of the American workers in Sega, and they couldn't comprehend why the Japanese would work late into the night instead of the 9-to-5 schedule as well. And Yuji Naka eventually returned. The creator of Marble Madness brought him back in. Tempted him. I don't know how that happens. That's a weird connection. But as we says, it was reported even then as well by some of the people working at Sega for Sonic 2 that his intense personality was not well liked. And reportedly, the Japanese would also fix the mistakes late at night as well. So the Americans would develop the game during the day.
The Japanese was like, oh no, they fucked it up again. We stay here till 2 a.m.
They demoed it, I think, at New York Toy Fair as well, when it was in a right stage of demo. And the demo cartridge was even stolen as well.
Wow.
I don't know what happened to it, but I don't think they ever recovered it either, to be
I wonder if
honest.
that's still in the world somewhere.
Yeah, on the black market
possibly.
or some collectors' cupboards.
I've got it.
Wouldn't be a surprise.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was due to release Christmas 1992, so it wasn't even that far off from the first one as well. And development on the game was falling behind pretty badly as well. Levels had to be cut, and an additional 13 developers from Japan were quickly flown over as well to help finalise it. This meant they even cut out the Cyber City Zone, a level which was originally called Genocide City.
God, that's ominous.
Yes, and that was until the Japanese were told what genocide means.
Right. Okay.
You were allied with a country who was party to it
Yeah,
a few years
yeah.
ago, guys.
Yeah.
And as anybody that's played the game knows, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 introduced the Death Egg, which took inspiration from Star Wars as well, along with concepts such as the Super Sonic and the 7 Chaos Emeralds, which were taken from
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, there we go.
Not that you'd ever fucking guess. He turns yellow and his spiky hair goes upwards.
Yes.
Oh, and he gets like an energy aura as well, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Powers are the exact same, essentially.
It really slows down the game that for 45 minutes he has to stand there screaming before you can activate it. But what can you do?
Find out next time on the next game. But I had to actually research this as well, because I was always unsure what came first. But the Super Saiyan transformation was in 1991.
Yeah.
So, there we go. And so the game was eventually released November 1992, and the launch party, brace yourselves, had Saved by the Bell's very own Dustin Diamond.
Oh!
Pre-porn, might add as well.
We're going to get on to Sonic porn later, don't worry.
Didn't he use a stunt cock?
I don't know.
I've read that he used a stunt cock.
Well,
It's
you
not-
need to watch it and find out and let us know next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I need to go full on JFK with
Yeah,
it and just
research
like
mode.
watching episodes of Saved by the Bell, pausing them, trying to look at the outline.
Frame
of
by
each job.
frame.
Yeah, and any episodes where they go to the beach.
What is your search history, Drew? Dustin Diamond's dick.
Oh,
dick.
guys, I'll stop you there. Visit dustindiamond.com. Just do yourself a
no,
favour. No. It's perfectly wholesome. Just, it's a little gift from me to you. dustindiamond.com. Yep. Carry on.
This message was paid for by Dustin Diamond.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's basically like an Angel Fire website. Complete with a MIDI version of the Saved by the Bell theme tune.
Oh,
nice.
And like, yeah, low res like, JPEGs of Screech from Saved by the
What
Bell.
website's weirder, that or the Heaven's Gate one?
I've not been on the Heaven's Gate one.
Okay, it's weird.
Well, yeah, I imagine it will. I
Very
mean, Dustin
honest.
Diamond, yeah, like fucked a girl on camera for money, but
He did.
he's still alive.
That's true. Some
Well,
of
there's
the
two members of
yeah.
Heaven's Gate still alive, but anyway.
Yeah,
Branching off.
and the ones that died don't have penises.
No, that was not all of them castrate. Anyway.
All right, Marcus.
But this presentation, this launch party was so fucking 90s, it hurts. Because you even had two of the kids from Home Improvement on it as well.
Nice.
Oh, it wasn't JTT, was it? Was it Simba himself?
I think it was Simba himself. Yeah, there was two youngest ones at the time in 1990. I can't remember their names.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Zachary Ty Bryan.
Yes. Jesus Christ.
What?
Well, you weren't allowed to be a child sitcom actor unless you had 3 names back in the 90s,
It's
apparently.
also a thing for serial killers, isn't it?
And there's actually a great video of this launch party on YouTube as well. A guy called Badnik Mechanic essentially has uploaded all like these archived footage as well. And yeah, it's very awkward. Dustin Diamond reading this script out as well. And he's going, "This game is so good. Look, 2 screens, 2 screens, guys."
Pauses to look at his notes, goes back.
Yeah.
Could they not get Urkel? Is that what was the...
I think that was.
They needed a good TV nerd to introduce this video game.
Yeah, Sonic 2, when it was released, went on to break records as well. Surprise, surprise. And it became the best-selling 16-bit game of all time as well. And it may come as no surprise to some of you as well, but the guy called Duncan Gutteridge did the promotional work in Europe for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and I met him a couple of years ago, and I had a frame print of his work for the advertisement of Sonic 2, because that was some really nice artwork. I don't know if you ever recall it.
Mhm.
Eggman over the actual like number 2. And I placed it in the hallway, like pride of place, and then like my girlfriend moved it to above the microwave in the kitchen.
You didn't just come home one day
Yeah.
and it had been taken away. I mean, yeah.
That dude was just at a Costa Coffee. He just hunted him down, didn't
I
he?
think-
To take a photo with him.
Her reasoning being that it wasn't part of the aesthetic
Yes,
of
that's true.
various stuffed birds and dream
Moths.
catchers.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of class this as like, despite the first game selling well, like this was Sega's and Sonic's like biggest explosion as well. This was this was their best time, because this led the way for the new Archie comic, which we want to get into. This is very juicy, which ran for 290 issues before Sega concluded their publishing partnership with them, I think 2 years ago. IDW now do the comics as well, and they're pretty solid for the most part, if you like Sonic. Apparently they wanted a new direction, and Archie couldn't be bothered to negotiate the contract because fuck it, they had Riverdale and Sabrina.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's a separate topic altogether, but such fucking archaic comics you would not think could be so hot right now, but it is amazing what a Netflix series will do for revitalising your entire brand. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we could go into that another time, but absolutely crazy. But I don't blame them for focusing on that, really, because that's where their money is.
Yes,
for
it is.
sure.
Yeah. But it's a shame, though, because it's the longest running video game comic of all time as well. I mean, comic's trash. But, you know,
But
that's
still,
a nice thing.
it had all them numbers.
Archie's Sonic series had some memorable characters, for sure, and some great moments. And some pretty fucking terrible ones, if I'm going to be honest. The series crossed over with Spawn at one point.
What?
I remember that issue where he was covered in chains and he kicked his pregnant wife down the stairs, so she miscarried. Oh no, wait, that was just Spawn. That was a fantastic issue. That was an anniversary issue. I think it was issue 150 of Spawn, where you find out that the hero that you've been rooting for all along, who's been, his sole goal in the comic book has been to get his wife back and earn his soul back from the devil that he struck a deal with to get these powers. Turns out that he'd just given himself partial amnesia, and when he was alive, he'd domestically abused this wife and forced her to miscarry. And then the book has carried on for a further 150 issues, because apparently comic nerds are fine with that as long as you've got a sick fucking cape and a clown that could turn into a demon man.
Fantastic.
Yeah, heck of a book.
Could you order that in for me then, please, Matt?
Yeah, sure.
I want to read that fucking crossover though, because from which side do you tackle that? Do you go?
Which
Is it a
universe
Spawn
do you go
book with like a fucking weird like hobo Sonic, or do you go in the other way where Spawn just winds up in the Green Hill Zone? And have you read it?
No, I'll find it for you.
We've got to track that shit down. That sounds absolutely bonkers.
It'll be on our Instagram in a few days.
Yes. There's a guy called Ken Pandas, which we will do our own separate podcast on.
Ken Pandas.
Ken Pandas is his name because he was one of the main writers and artists for Sonic.
Ken Pandas.
Yes, Ken Pandas. And he actually had a legal battle with, I believe it was Sega and EA, for over the use of 200 original characters which he had designed for Sonic.
With all different variants of pandas.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, this guy's really like, he's a controversial figure in the fandom, because he failed to live up to expectations for the big events that he'd do as well. Like, he had some crazy ideas, and he believed that he did create a bunch of interesting and diverse characters for the universe. Spoiler alert, he didn't. This is pretty rich, because this is coming from a man that took Espo the Chameleon's design, put a hat on him, and called him Valdez the Chameleon.
Nice.
Exotic.
This man was the king of DeviantArt OCs. And I'd like to take a minute right now just to Google our names and the hedgehog, please.
Oh, this is always fun to do. Have you ever done this before, Dan?
No, let's do it.
So the theory behind this is there are that many people who create Sonic the Hedgehog like fan characters that pretty much every version of a name will create one. So
well, I've come up with Daniel the Head, Daniel the Hedgehog, Daniel the Hedgewolf, and Daniel.
Oh, let me have a look. How good is that? How good are those?
Daniel the Hedgehog. Right, here we go. Oh,
so it's the first time. Oh boy,
Drew's got a really good one. I looked at this earlier.
It me.
Well, I don't know what this says about me, but this fucking dude is wearing a Thomas and Friends t-shirt.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Nice. I'm a brown hedgehog, and it looks like someone's standing just to the left of me, farting on the back of my head really hard. So all of my hair's blowing forward. Either that, or it's a Panic at the Disco type.
Oh, there's better ones than that.
Oh, there's better ones than that. Is there? Let's have a look.
Well, I'm just sort of green.
Just for clarification, is what I think we'll be posting.
Yeah,
this on
yeah.
Social media.
This is the worst form of podcasting ever. We look at things and describe them.
There he goes. Drew says, hey, smoke weed every day.
I've seen that one before.
Nice.
That one actually is me,
beautiful.
because he's a fat bastard as well. Look at him.
Andrew smokes weed constantly. He's doing it right now.
Oh, there's a grey one that's a bit edgier.
Thought
It looks
Tony
like
Blaze it.
he's got a little he's got a gun. He's got a little like fucking floppy thing off his head. It's not a
This
dick.
does sound like you.
It's true. Yeah, but it's off the front of his head. It's like it's like a greaser. It looks like a greaser, this one. And he's got like 5 diamonds next to his arse, which is a bit weird.
Beautiful.
Not
That's
alive.
really good.
Yeah.
You have to save that one, Daniel.
That's good.
We'll post
Is it?
that one.
Is
Yeah.
that good? Is
Yeah,
that
that's
what
a good
people
one.
consider good?
Yeah, I'd give it like on my DeviantArt
Fucking hell.
profile.
That's bollocks. Sonic fan site wiki, that's from.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll cut all that out.
Go back to it. This guy Ken had a real hard-on for echidnas, which is strange because the
For what?
echidnas.
Oh, okay.
Because the comic ended up revolving around Knuckles and his species, despite it being called the Sonic comic as well.
I'd never fucking heard of an echidna before Sonic and Knuckles came in.
Oh yeah, that's it. And this guy introduced techno-fascist echidnas that would do Hitler salutes in a kid's comic book.
You got to admire the balls on this guy.
I feel like Sonic's like Spawn and he's kicking his pregnant missus downstairs,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
fucking Nazis.
Oh yeah.
What's going on?
And this guy even introduced the edgy Lara Sue, Knuckles' daughter from the future as well. And this guy's trying to still make this Lara Sue thing happen, even despite not working on Sonic or being out anywhere near it. Ever
Or
since
children.
finishing. Yeah, and that as well. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
poor old Ken as well. He got in some hot fire on Twitter a while ago for defending the storyline. Defending the storyline of a 15-year-old Sally Acorn losing her virginity at the hands of Jeffrey the skunk. He even went on to say that the age of consent on Mobius, Sonic's planet, is 16, but Sally was 15 at the time.
So he got his own canon wrong.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Excellent. No wonder he's got a fucking name like Ken Pandas.
Yeah, I don't care for this guy
me.
at all, and many people don't.
Did you ever go at him on Twitter about it?
No, not
Okay,
yet.
that's a shame.
The problem with Ken that he didn't care for the video games as well, despite writing for a comic based on a video game.
Did he accidentally fall into this job?
I don't know.
Just walk in the offices one day.
I'm under the belief that he always wanted to do his own thing, but then Sonic gave him the characters to do so.
Yeah.
As well, because
It's
he's
a
never had an
rich
original form.
and diverse world
It is.
of anthropomorphic rodents
This is I mean,
and statutory rape.
over 200 characters he created, and honestly, I was proud of this line. This guy thinks he's the Jack Kirby of Sonic, but he's jack shit.
All very nice.
Oh, we need a soundboard. So I can
Take that, pandas!
Yeah.
Take that! Yeah, we know you're listening.
I'm isolating that. Take that, pandas. And that's going to end up somewhere just randomly.
The guy had some awful artwork as well, which I'll have to show you guys at some point. He had created no interesting characters whatsoever, and when he decided to get in a fight with the writers over his own continuity, and then after Sue, Sega and Archie, it just didn't sit right with most of the fans as well, because Archie actually sued him back over these claims as well that he owned these characters. And this was because,
why? Let him have them.
Well,
Doesn't sound like anyone else wants them.
the problem was, I think echidnas were briefly mentioned in maybe a Game Boy Advance game or something, and it was one of his creations. And because of him learning about this, he went straight to Archie. They did actually reach a settlement as well, which meant his original Do Not Steal 200 characters were wiped clean from the comic as well. Which is really hard to kind of, describe to your readers that have been reading this comic for years.
All of a sudden, I would imagine the vast majority of the cast is just gone.
Yeah. And also, I'd like to recommend the Tumblr account called Thanks Ken Pandas as well, by a lady called Bobby, who's also read all of Ken Panda's comics, so we don't have to.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, it's much appreciated.
And if people wanted a decent Sonic comic, they could always live in the UK. Fleetway Publishing printed a new Sonic comic series in 1993, and that would even feature other video games as well, such as Decap Attack, Shinobi and more. Even had some of Mark Miller's first works as well, in a Sonic strip and Streets of Rage. So probably one of the biggest names in comic books nowadays. That was some of his beginnings on the Streets of Rage comic, which was not good, much like Mark Miller's work now.
How dare you, sir? That man gave us... I'm trying to think of something particularly shite that he's done recently.
You see, now you can't think of anything shite. Slag him off and then you can't think of it. Jesus. Call yourself experts.
Sorry.
Say sorry to Mark, not me.
Sorry, Mark.
Chrononauts was alright.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, moving on. Numerous people actually worked on this comic, but the main players were the writers Nigel Kitchen and Lou Stringer, and the absolutely fantastic artist Richard Elson and the late Nigel Dobbin as well. The comic introduced interesting characters such as Short Fuse, the short-tempered squirrel.
Excellent.
Who regained consciousness as well after being turned into a badnik. Along with the cool and hip Techno the Canary, and Johnny Lightfoot, who was actually one of the only characters to be murdered in the comic as well.
Jesus Christ, I didn't get that far.
Yeah.
I remember the origin where it turns out that Sonic was just a normal, brown, shitty-looking hedgehog
Yes.
who ran really quickly on Dr. Ivor Kentobor's machine, which, was it like a time travel machine?
It was a time travel machine or something. I think it was like powering up or something, but a rotten egg fell out of the fridge and there was a big explosion, and this really friendly Ivor Kintobor got turned into Robotnik.
And his name badge, the letters got all jumbled up because... Plot twist. Kintobor is actually an anagram of Robotnik.
What? Really?
What is going on?
It's Robotnik backwards. And then Sonic was blue and fast. And he had shoes and socks.
I thought shit was weird when Spawn was knocking about.
No, wait, he gave him the shoes and socks, didn't he? There were special shoes and socks so that he could run.
Yes, they
So
were.
they made him go fast.
So they thought of everything.
They really did.
Okay, cool.
Mate, when I was 13 and I had my paper round, going to the newsagents and seeing that Sonic the Comic turn up every month was
Sonic
just
the Comic.
reason
Every
to be
fortnight,
alive.
actually.
Was it fortnightly?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, but I you know, he got that in especially for me, and that was one of the only reasons that I continued to have a paper round at that particular shop, was that he was willing to get that in for me.
The bloke who did the paper round, like sorted out the papers for everyone, just loved me a lot. Like,
Oh, yeah.
worryingly so now. When I
Do
think
you want to
about
save
it.
this for your counselling?
Yeah. It was quite. He was always like, "Oh, you're the best paper boy," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like really,
A
really
bit
like
tighter.
telling everyone. Oh, he thinks I'm the best paper boy, not realising that he probably was trying to groom her. Allegedly.
Allegedly. There it is.
Oh, Jesus. I honestly think this comic had some of the best artists to ever grace, like Sonic, because Nigel Dobbin, like his Knuckles stuff. I don't know if you've ever recorded his Knuckles stuff as well.
Yeah.
Some of the best art like Sonic's ever had.
What's funny is you look at things like the the animated opening cutscenes for like Sonic Mania and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
There's clearly a degree of influence of the Fleetway stuff there. I think.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think you know it's
Richard Elston's art.
it's much rounder and even more cartoony than a lot of the other stuff. Going really kind of Saturday morning cartoon with it, and
Yes.
you know, which obviously there was the Saturday morning cartoon of it
Yes,
in the
there
90s
was.
as well.
Yeah.
But all of that stuff kind of had that look about it, and I think you can see that there in Mania.
Yeah, 100%.
Good game, that. Good game.
Very good. The series actually struggled due to the reviews being cut from it as well. So I think it had like 27 pages or something, or maybe a bit more. But the bulk of it sometimes was a lot of the reviews. And since that was cut, and despite once outselling 2000 AD one year, they actually began reprinting some of the old stories in 1997,
Right.
which was a shame, because especially if I was being like, so I was getting it since like when it practically started. Then come 1997, I'm like, but I've read this already.
I'd moved on to finding pornography in the woods at that point. So I was reading reviews of a different kind.
I was finding Sonic comics in the woods.
It all ended up the same way.
Was that same bloke that ran the paper thing?
Fortunately, the comic was cancelled before the main writer, Nigel Kitchen, was even told as well.
Oh, nice.
Pandas in kitchen, mate.
Kitchen's fine.
No, kitchen's
the
alright.
names.
It's not as bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yes.
just the names.
Sonic the Comic actually had like a life online for a brief period of time as well. Received a few awards from Diamond as well, actually. And I will say, shout out to someone that listens to this as well. Shout out to Miles, a friend of mine who's actually worked on the Sonic comic as well, and he's done some flats, I think, for the IDW series as well.
Oh, cool.
So go check out his work. You can find him at Duck Doriber on Twitter. And anyway, back on with it. We did have the comics for sure, but we also had the cartoons.
There it is.
Yes. For example, there was Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a child-friendly slapstick cartoon which introduced Scratch and Grounder. You remember
Yes,
Scratch and
I do,
Grounder?
yeah.
Yes.
I'd completely forgotten them, but now you've mentioned them.
Yes.
Yep, they're back.
They're cracking. Because they used to serve at Botanic Dan. And also, for anybody that noticed, the voice actor for Grounder makes an appearance in the new film as well.
Well,
You
That's
get the
the
most
thing.
useless trivia for you today.
I literally have nothing to say about that. That's,
There's a limited amount of people that got that.
I don't. Yeah, I was clawing away for something, but nope.
Nope, nothing. No. I was raised on that cartoon as well, I think, to be honest, because that was the main thing I watched when I was younger.
So that was the very first one. Was that the one where they first changed the design of Robotnik, so he was kind of like a bit more pear-shaped, and he had that weird like single cavity where both eyes should be with the two red dots?
Yeah, yeah.
Fucked up, like that fucked up design, especially when you compare him to what he looked like in the games, where he was just
Yeah.
basically a completely round dude.
How do you feel about Jim Carrey's not necessarily that fat in it, is he? In the film. How do you feel about that?
He's fine. Like it's weird because I couldn't think of anybody else after seeing the film
Okay,
as Robotnik at all. I mean, he brings that kind of old Ace Ventura flavour to it
sure.
because he can't do anything else.
Right.
But it works. It works for me anyway.
Okay.
Actually, the show still aired worldwide as well, which I didn't know.
Really?
Yeah. It's probably somewhere in Mexico.
I was going to say,
somewhere.
is this like like Chechnya or somewhere where they've only had colour television for about 18 months?
Still recovering from Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Adventures of Sonic had a much edgier brother as well, and that was simply called Sonic the Hedgehog, which was the basis for the Archie comic as well. It introduced a fan favourite Princess Sally Acorn, whose popularity can be noted by the endless amounts of disgusting fan art.
He said disgusting, and he did that little thing that people do with their fingers.
Little thing they do with their fingers, eh?
Yeah. The air quotes, I believe the cool kids call them.
I think that's what they do call them.
Yeah.
Clearly, the executives just wanted a much cooler version of the character, much cooler version of the character side for the show. But due to being put up against Power Rangers, it didn't survive 2 seasons. It's one of those things. They moved the time slot, and then who was the company behind Power Rangers as well?
Saban. So it was on the Fox network.
The Fox were just like, well, we're going to move Power Rangers, so it just did not survive.
Well, Power Rangers was, obviously Sonic is a big iconic part of the 90s, but at the time, Power Rangers was the fucking be all end all.
Yeah. Huge.
Stay tuned for our Power Rangers episode coming up at some point in the near future.
There's a guy called Ben Hurst who was actually a writer for this cartoon as well, and he actually pushed for a 3rd series or like an eventual movie. And one executive at Dick Entertainment showed some interest in reviving it. However, good old Ken Panders fucked that one up royally.
Fucking Ken.
Yeah, he caught wind of Ben's plans for a 3rd season and contacted Sega himself, which screwed up any plans. I think he basically kind of like undersold Ben's plans, kind of made it sound like it was a bit nefarious as well, and also news websites caught wind of this as well, so they were like, oh, new Sonic film. So when Ben got back to the executive, he received an earful from them describing that they didn't need his ideas. Ken twisted the knife there, and he even went online to some message board to joke about how Ben Hurst doesn't understand Hollywood.
How long before they introduced the character Ken the Panda, who is a litigious, insane pervert living in the Sonic universe, just trying to scupper the plans of Sonic and the gang?
It gets worse.
I hate pandas.
You hate pandas?
No, I don't like pandas.
Right, stop a minute, Matt.
How can anybody hate a panda?
They're just.
What's a panda ever done to you? They just fucking sleep and eat bamboo all
that's
day.
the problem. We're investing all this bastard time in keeping pandas alive, but they breed like one day of the fucking year.
They get 5-bedroom council houses, 75 grand a year of my bloody taxes.
I'm right wing against pandas.
They're down there on the council estates.
I think it all
swinging off the monkey bars in the park.
It all stems from a teenage drunken night where I stayed around a friend's house, and I stayed in her younger sister's bedroom, not with a younger sister, and she was obsessed with pandas. And
I had that as well.
And I woke up after having a nightmare about pandas to a fucking room full of pandas.
Okay.
And it's like an emotional scar.
I mean, you're quite lucky in that, some people have phobias of spiders or,
I'm never going to see a panda.
That's what he thinks.
And if I do, I'll swear at it.
Have we got a surprise for you?
Bring in the panda.
Gregory, bring him in!
It would just fall down the stairs and just do fuck all. They're useless.
They're very cute, Daniel.
Bastards.
Anyway.
Poor Chi-Chi.
Good old Ken as well was seen tweeting last year about how this was all an urban myth.
He was seen tweeting or he tweeted?
Whatever. But he was claiming that this was all an urban myth. None of it happened. And whilst doing so, he actually showed off some of his artwork for his proposed Sonic movie. Although I don't actually recall seeing his name anywhere near the film. And it's a shame because he actually tweeted this a year after Ben Hurst passed away as well, I think from complications with diabetes.
Oh, nice.
So good job, Ken.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Fucking pandas.
Yeah. Ben did actually work on a thing called Sonic Underground, which was a thing. Ben Hurst was a great guy, but then he gave us a TV show which had Sonic having magical instruments and 2 punky siblings.
Well, that's just patently ridiculous, isn't it?
Have you seen it though?
Well, no, but where do you draw your line between what's acceptable and what's not in this world of hot dog eating anthropomorphic fast hedgehogs and their best friends, the fox, the badger in one of the cartoons?
Yeah, I guess you got
the metal version.
There's a metal version.
Metal Sonic, sir.
How do you know about Metal Sonic? I thought you finished Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Oh, I can't fucking remember.
Anyway, regardless. During this time, Sega wanted to actually push sales of their Mega CD add-on.
I had that.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I had.
Many people did.
I built the fucking Voltron of Sega home consoles with my Mega Drive and my Mega CD and whatever the other fucking thing was that you could clip onto the side of it. You didn't need the heating on in the house because the amount of warmth that was coming out of the power, the plug sockets in the walls from having everything plugged in.
For this Mega CD add-on, that meant that development had to quickly go on Sonic CD, which was directed by the original Sonic designer, Oshima, as well. And everybody kind of regards this as a cult classic, this game. Have you played Sonic CD?
It's no Night Trap, but it's alright.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty weak entry, to be honest. It introduced Amy, sure, and it gave us like a really cool Metal Sonic, but it also gave us the concept of like time travel, which doesn't really fit as well. It did give us one thing that was really cool though, a beautiful animated intro done by Toei Animation.
It did, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so the same guys essentially that did Dragon Ball Dan did the intro for that.
I know that.
Sonic CD was actually kind of left to the developers without much interference as well. I think Sega were just kind of, I don't know, they trusted them to do, just let them to their own devices essentially. But I think that's kind of why it feels less polished in a way as well, to be honest.
I mean, they shit the bed the entire way with the Sega CD anyway, didn't they? So much of what was attached to it and what came out for it and how it was supported just didn't fucking work.
Are they onto Sega Saturn?
I still had one.
Is that what it is?
What?
No, this was the precursor to the Sega Saturn.
Because I had that. I had a Sega Saturn.
One of few people that did.
I know.
Yeah, that was a machine.
It was. It worked.
Yeah.
It turned on.
Never have I been
That's what they said on the box. It worked.
Never have I been so okay about the first time I saw Virtua Fighter fired up and watched as 50 different coloured squares assembled vaguely in the shape of a human fought another 50 assembled squares on a horribly flat, badly rendered background.
Yeah, not good.
It's alright, guys. The Sega Dreamcast 2 is going to be announced at E3 this year.
You're funny. Due to the massive monumental success of the second game, there was no doubt that Sega wanted to actually push with a proper sequel as well. This was actually going to be their swan song, in a way, to a lot of people, as key players in the Sonic team would actually start their departure soon afterwards as well. Yuji Naka was set to return, but with one stipulation. He was only going to work primarily with the Japanese staff. He had no time for the Americans. He finally got his promotion that he wanted, and he became producer for the third game. But Sega still got the Japanese to squeeze out one little game in between there, and that was Sonic Spinball, which was a thing. It was a pinball-esque game that briefly featured characters from the cartoon, and it was probably the most difficult Sonic video game I've ever played. Did you ever play Sonic Spinball?
I played it at the time, but I have next to no memories of it. It's kind of in there with Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine and some various other bits.
It's horrendous.
Which isn't actually a Sonic game, the Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. It was a reskin of Puyo Puyo.
Yeah.
Good game.
It was. Because there was still a war waging between Nintendo and Sonic, the new game needed a big selling point as well. Nintendo had been smashing it with their Super FX chip, which allowed games such as Star Fox to be presented in blistering 3D. And I remember like playing Star Fox back then and being like, "Whoa!"
For a 16-bit machine, yeah, impressive. Although when they launched the SNES Mini a couple of years ago, and they were like, now for the first time ever, never released in the West because it was unfinished, Star Fox 2.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then you fire it up and remember, oh yeah, it's not 1994 anymore. This looks like a pile of ass and handles just as badly. Yeah.
So there were talks as well to develop a 3D like isometric Sonic game for Sega's very own virtual processor. But Sega essentially refused the Sonic team's demands because it wouldn't be made in time for the release date as well. And it was just funny that because there's no games on that virtual processor, I can tell you that much. So Yuji Naka and Hirokazu Yasuhara, went with their original idea for Sonic 2 to produce a massive sprawling adventure for Sonic like they'd never seen before. Unsurprisingly, Sega held yet another internal contest. I don't know what it is with Sega and contests.
Test your might.
And the new character, as we know, would end up being Knuckles, designed by a guy called Takashi Yuda. Knuckles was originally meant to be green, but a focus group of children preferred a red version instead. I can't see a green Knuckles, to be honest.
He'd just look ill.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would. He would. Which I didn't know about as well. I guess I'd always wondered, but due to Sega briefly working with Nike as well, they originally designed the logo on Knuckles to reflect the Nike logo on there.
Okay.
Cross promotion there.
Yeah.
But the idea was scrapped because the promotional deal fell through as well. And yeah, I mean, that fell through. But at least they weren't as cunty as they were a couple of years later.
Cunty is a good word.
Because they sued Sega for apparently copying a television ad for NBA 2K2. Okay. And the advertisement was essentially some guys playing the new game, but the game was in slow motion. Everything else was around them in slow motion. And this apparently copied their advertisement. So they demanded money for damages on copyright infringement, and they sought royalties for the sale of the game as well. Nice company, that. Sweatshop workers. Sega settled, actually, strangely enough, by giving money to a charity on behalf of Nike, and I think they got a tax deduction at the end of it anyway. So Sega were like, "Oh, what a shame!" Right, they pulled the ad.
Yeah, but then ultimately just had to give a bit of money to charity.
Yes, there's a guy called, I think, the Gaming Historian on YouTube as well, who talks about this in depth. And if you ask me, it was clear that it was fair use parody.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost shot for shot, but they just kind of tweaked it a little bit and just made it a bit funnier as well. Back to the development of the game, it was actually split into two halves as well. So we had Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. Sega produced this new lock-on technology, and how did you describe it, sorry?
Oh, so there's like a girl cartridge and a boy cartridge, and you would fuck the girl cartridge.
Yeah, that was exactly it.
You'd peel back the black plastic labia that was on the top, and then you would what? And then you'd spit on it to make sure that it was ready, and then you'd jam it in. And
that confirms that Drew knows where the clit is.
It does.
Okay.
I have a wife.
My wife. Yes, this allowed players to connect their Sonic 3 cartridge to Sonic and Knuckles, which enabled for more levels, altered gameplay, and the ability, to play Sonic 2 with Knuckles.
It looked fucking stupid in the Mega Drive, though.
Oh yeah, it did. Like, it was just a tower.
It was just like a fucking foot-high game sticking out the top of your console.
It was brand new technology for Sega as well at the time. It was mostly done because the development team were way behind as well on their deadline. So I think they released the first game in May, and Sonic and Knuckles in October as well.
That's crazy. That's crazy turnaround. You cannot. Well, I mean, like, you get some titles, like, for a while Assassin's Creed were doing it, where it was like a yearly turnaround on their new entries, but the game's obviously suffered for that. And now it seems more that, like, consoles that have exclusive characters will allow the development teams time for their flagship titles to actually germinate properly, and you know, the culture around that seems to have shifted a fair bit. I mean, obviously there's a lot of practices in terms of video game deadlines and stuff, which we've talked about before, but generally you would in no way expect an Uncharted game to come out 12 months after the last Uncharted game. It's fucking crazy to think of.
They were renowned for that as well later on. I mean, I guess in this case, a lot of Sonic 3 was just transported into Sonic and Knuckles because of the size of the game. But anyway, once the game was eventually finished, most of the Japanese staff left America. I think they were just done. Which I'm not surprised, to be honest. They were doing all their work practices, and Yuji Naka only consulted on Sonic projects from here on in until the Dreamcast came out. Regarding the soundtrack, I assume you know who did the soundtrack for Sonic 3?
No, sir.
Trent Reznor.
Michael Jackson.
Oh.
Okay. I know that the buckles on Sonic's shoes were based on Michael Jackson when the initial design and the cover of the Bad album, but that was as much as I knew about his involvement with the... No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it was kind of rumoured for years as well, to be honest.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the game Moonwalker?
No. I think that's why he
Michael
came
Jackson
along with
rumours.
Moonwalker.
Right.
Because that was a Sega game. And,
sure was.
Yeah, sure was.
It was. I remember it.
Well, obviously, it wasn't actually credited in the game. It was true. It came out, I think, might be like 2 or 3 years ago, that it was official. But the reason why he was pulled from the credits was because of the child allegations.
I was going to say, you said Michael Jackson and rumours earlier.
Yeah.
It's because whilst in production meetings, he demanded a small boy as payment.
Jesus.
Didn't say what he was going to do.
No, that's
but he
true.
Just take him to Neverland and just go on the
Sonic
rides.
together.
Yeah.
Was that your Michael Jackson?
Paints it blue.
Yep.
Paint what blue,
chili
Matthew?
dog.
Nothing.
Allegedly.
He's dead. It's fine.
Oh, his lawyers aren't.
We love you, Michael Jackson. No, we don't really.
I love Michael Jackson.
Cool. That makes sense. The paper round. Anyway.
I have his nose. Like, he paid a lot of money for my
box?
nose. He wanted to look like me.
In addition to these allegations as well, Jackson wasn't actually happy with the sounds that the Mega Drive could produce. So I think he worked on these for ages, and the second he heard them finally coming out the Mega Drive, he was like, "What?
This is bullshit. Where's Quincy? This is bullshit. Fetch me my boy."
Still, despite Jackson's history, some of those songs slap.
Settle down, Dad.
What does that mean?
That's what the kids call good music these days.
Yeah.
It
Slapping.
slaps.
It slaps, Daniel.
I'm going home. What?
I'm gonna go home and listen to the Hives like a proper 30-year-old.
The Hives. How have we managed to bring up the Hives twice in this podcast?
Oh, I don't know, because they're one of the greatest bands to ever live.
Yeah, sure.
Sweden's greatest export.
I just appreciate a good chubby bass player with a moustache. I think that's where my affection for them comes from. Anyway,
to help promote the game, Sega had a whopping $45 million for their marketing budget.
Have you got that for inflation? No. Do you know how much it would cost
I don't
today?
know.
Some research.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, what did they actually do with all this money, you ask? Well, they held competitions around the world.
Oh, I thought you were going to say drugs and hookers.
No, that would have been good. But basically,
Dressed as
what
Sonic.
they did, they found the truest, most elitist gamers who scored the most rings in a Sonic game. And what happened when they achieved like a new record as well for the rings?
Michael Jackson pops out a box.
It's weirder. Sega pretended to arrest them, and then they dressed them up in a prison uniform, and then sent them to San Francisco.
and waterboarded them.
Yes.
so they were spending money on drugs then, is what you're saying?
Well, they held a final competition, which was televised on MTV in
At what point did they tell them the whole arrest was a ruse?
Yeah.
Like, are they like? Is it 5 hours later and they're on a private jet, still with this cloth bag over their head, just shaking and shitting because they've got no fucking idea what's going on?
Just in a version store, then 5 hours later, you're in Alcatraz.
Just a console controller thrusted into your hands, no explanation. Now play.
What is going on?
It's bizarre. Like, I've never heard of a company doing this before. Like, fake arresting someone, shipping them to Alcatraz, and then telling them to like collect the most rings.
You go to Alcatraz and you'll play the game.
Yes, Daniel.
I want rings. That's my Japanese accent.
The winner would go on to receive $25,000 dues as well.
25 years.
Well, that would have been good.
Yeah, I hope some counselling was thrown in because
Yes.
the PTSD of that experience.
If you want to see it, it's all on YouTube as well.
Jesus, I'm absolutely going to go and watch
Yeah, that sounds gold.
And I think Sonic & Knuckles is probably, apart from Sonic Mania, which came out, I think it was my favourite game at the time as well. However, it sold nowhere near as many copies as the second, despite Right Said Fred making a song for us as well.
Oh, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
Wonder Man.
This is the most 90s thing I've ever heard.
Well, that's where a lot of the later Sonic games went wrong. They didn't have the Right Said Fred
Yes,
song.
that is
Right.
true.
You know, they were
had
looking for
Akon
other.
instead.
Yeah, they were looking for other bold pop artists. To...
And as we all know, it was all downhill from here. It took 2 years for the next game to be released on the same platform that Sonic actually started on, and that was developed by Traveller's Tales. They're from Cheshire, Kent.
Okay.
And they were the guys behind the Lego games as well. Their game was Sonic 3D, Flicky's Island. Then the isometric gameplay completely lacks Sonic's main appeal, his speed. After that, there was also a new title called Knuckles Chaotix, which was released on the 32X, which was an add-on for the original console. Did you have the 32X?
I didn't have the 32X, no.
didn't have
was
room in his house.
We would have had to have alerted local power stations if I was going to plug in another peripheral.
He's got the CD-ROM extension and he's got the Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 3.
Yeah, you can just see the lights in the houses and the rest of the street just dimming every time I turn this fucking Goliath on. So I can fire a copy of Shining Force 3D up or whatever it was I was playing at the time.
It's weird because this 32X add-on was actually it was made to combat the new shiny PlayStation console as well, and due to Knuckles' home being on the 32X, that's where the game also died. Nobody played it because nobody owned a 32X as well.
No, I don't know if I know anyone who owned a 32X.
No, the PlayStation.
Everyone was just going apeshit for PlayStation.
Yes, exactly. Sonic Extreme was Sega's next venture. I'm surprised it took them that long to call something Sonic Extreme as well.
What year are we talking?
96?
Yeah, 96, I think, around there.
So it was just before the time they started like dropping E's and just go for the extreme.
Yeah, that's true. And it was marketed as their answer to Nintendo's Super Mario 64. Oof. However, when this game was presented to Sega's Japanese president, Yakiyama, he stormed right out of the building before the programmer could even introduce the game properly.
I like that he felt the gesture of leaving the room wasn't enough. And he's just
the building.
He's standing there in the lift for a good minute and fucking fuming.
Didn't say it though. Just
boiling over inside, and then
got on the helicopter and fucked off.
Getting home, just start slamming the front door. His wife's there, like, "What's the matter?" He's like, "Shoot the Sonic!"
That's my reaction.
There's your episode title.
That's my reaction to any of the new games nowadays.
Always shout it.
But first he goes to a big corporate headquarters, get somebody to shout him, and then leave.
And then you leave, and then you do it, for full impact.
Is it? Imagine that though. Leaving the building, as you said, just jumping on a helicopter or like a flight home. Or
just fucking furious, just not looking anyone in the eye or explaining yourself to anyone. Getting in, not even slamming the door, just getting in, sitting down, dinner's ready, the family's all gathered round, they're all discussing their day. Dad's still not spoken.
It's probably worse if
15 minutes in, they're just about getting ready to wrap up and serve the dessert. Possibly. How was your day, honey? Shit to Sonic!
He just tips the table. Fucking Ken Pandas.
This was actually the most infamous cancellation in Sega's history to date.
Sounds it, yes.
There's no surprise because when you look at it, the developers wanted a fisheye lens.
Jesus,
what? For the field of view. Imagine playing a video game with a fisheye lens as well. Yeah. Whoa. And they introduced a character called Ken Pandas. Eat your heart out. Tiara Bubowski.
Bubowski.
The big Bubowski.
If you've had the money, Bubowski. In addition to that as well, they decided to go for 4 completely different playstyles throughout the game. So they'd have one in 3D, they'd have Knuckles in a top-down 2D setting as well. No, it just didn't make any sense, to be honest. As was the same case with Sonic 3D Flicky's Island, they completely missed the appeal of Sonic, and that was being fast.
Yep.
The Sega Saturn had it really rough against its competitors, the Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. Sure, Virtua Fighter was selling pretty well for them, but they had no other viable games that caught the public's attention.
The Saturn was like 600 odd quid when it came out as well. It was
really?
Fucking phenomenally priced.
Jesus, my dad must have got a fucking loan to get that.
Which is when you consider the Mega Drive when it came out, I think it was 180 or something like that. Which, obviously again not just in for inflation, but still compared to the NES and the SNES and general launch prices, it was a pretty low cost machine, really. And you got a game bundled in with that and everything else. But when the Saturn came out, fuck me, exorbitant. I remember being kind of interested in maybe getting one, and then just the prices. That my mum was just like, absolutely fucking not. Finish that Game Gear game and then we'll talk.
And I tell you what, rumours are that PlayStation 2 console will cost almost that as well.
Yeah.
So, good job, Sony. But anyway. Due to Virtua Fighter, Sega decided to go with Sonic the Fighters, a fighting game that piggybacked off Virtua Fighter's success, clearly. Once development was also completed, Sega got spooked by the violence, and they restricted its release to mostly arcades.
Was that because they're all traumatised from the violence that the MD did when he first saw that prototype game?
Well, no, I mean, it's understandable, because at first when I was reading this, I was like, what were they talking about? And then I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, Sonic's beating up Amy in this. It's a bit domestic. You know?
They're in a kitchen, there's a burnt dinner slung against a wall with no explanation.
Spawn's just rocked up.
Tails is sitting in the corner crying quietly.
Just imagine their response as well. Like, you've got them again shipping over, like, you've got these Japanese presidents coming over. Oh, and they see footage of like Sonic just beating up Amy in a corner.
Just slapping her again and again and again. While she tries to protect the bump.
Oh, Jesus.
Too far?
Is this our worst episode yet?
No, not by far. We did do a hentai episode, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Sega even commissioned a new Sonic anime around the time as well, which has some pretty alright animation throughout. The problem is, it finished its production of its first 2 episodes in 1996, and that's when public interest in the Hedgehog had completely waned, so it never became a thing. That's also available on YouTube, and America dubbed it, and they cut out Sonic flipping off Robotnik in it as well.
Oh.
As long as they left the tentacles in, that's the important thing.
Well, there's a lot of like Sonic against Metal Sonic in this, and it was clear the animators were just like DBZ.
Yeah.
But with Sonic and Metal Sonic. After some pretty dismal releases, such as Sonic R, which was developed in just merely 6 months, work began on Sonic Adventure. And that was a new 3D Sonic game for the upcoming Sega Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was Sega's answer to Sony and Nintendo's new and upcoming consoles for the next generation.
Did you ever own a Dreamcast, Dan?
I didn't, because I was put off by how shit the Sega Saturn was, so I got a PlayStation.
I think a lot of people had that concern before, and I think that was really damaging to the console overall, because it was a good console and it had some really good releases on it, but yeah, I think so many people felt burnt by what happened with the previous generation that they just didn't.
100%.
That was a period in my life where I didn't really stay inside a lot. I was sort of, it was.
Well, you missed out there, Dan, because the controller, you could put a little fucking Tamagotchi in that bad boy and take it out with you.
I remember my friend playing it.
Yeah.
But,
you could keep chows in it.
It was ahead of its time, if you ask me. Because it also was like, I think it was the first console to have internet access.
It was, yeah. It was a lot of people's first, readily
time somebody told them I'm going to fuck your mum.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, to a degree. Yuji Naka actually returned to help with this project as well, with original Sonic designer Oshima, returning one last time to redesign Sonic for a more mature, hip audience, like myself.
I fucking love when people talk about the redesigns of Sonic the Hedgehog, because apart from Sonic Boom, where he's contracted some sort of leprosy, so he's got to have bandages, he's a blue fucking hedgehog with red shoes. Like, you've made his legs an inch longer, great. You've made, like, this fucking blue spike, you've given him an extra one, great. But, like, I'm sorry, to me, and I don't know if this just falls under my Transformers face blindness, they're the same fucking thing, pretty much.
Oh, I'm raging. No,
That's physically shaking right now.
Actually, for once as well, the game managed to nail different playstyles as well. So we had like Big the Cat, who was a new introduction to the series.
Big the Cat.
Big the Cat,
Okay.
honestly.
I'm
He's
not
a cool character.
going to ask any questions.
You know what he looks like just from his name?
Yes, he's a big cat.
big
He's just a big cat, yeah.
Big fuck off cat.
Basically, his like playstyle was just fishing mini games, but they were kind of really nice, and it was kind of a calming period in between the intense Sonic levels as well.
It's just an introduction to Animal Crossing.
Yes,
It's how it originated.
yes.
Fucking hell.
It actually took months for this game to finally reach the West as well, because it needed a completely new voice cast, and this I think was the first game as well to actually have Sonic talk throughout the entire thing. Suffice to say, the voice acting for Sonic Adventure was not great.
Now, I know they wanted Gilbert Gottfried as the voice of Sonic.
Oh, imagine that.
And Fran Drescher as Amy.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
Kickstart, let's make it happen.
According to a lot of sources as well, Yuji Naka did not care for Sonic's voice actor, who was Ryan Drummond at the time, and he went absolutely fucking mental when he heard that Ryan Drummond was voicing both Sonic and Knuckles for one of their games. Nobody told Yuji Naka that, voice actors can have range.
Yeah.
Very dramatic, man, this.
Yeah, Yuji Naka is...
Passionate man,
passionate.
Daniel. Passionate
I think
man.
that's the correct one, yes.
Drama queen.
Whilst the game sold well for the Dreamcast, Sega was being absolutely hammered by Sony's new console, the PlayStation 2. I mean, you remember what it was like back then?
The PS2,
Yeah.
it's still the king of the consoles, isn't
Yes,
it? When you look at units sold and lifespan and everything else, it's going to be a long time, I think, before anything topples that.
Yeah, definitely. They still stuck to their Sonic guns despite this by releasing the abysmal Sonic Shuffle, which was their answer to Mario Party. It's probably ranks as one of the worst games, to be honest. Undeterred by...
Wait. You're not the slightest bit surprised I've not made a joke having mentioned Sonic Shuffle?
Yes.
Okay, good. just clocking. I just want some recognition that I can show restraint. Continue.
Oh, Andrew, I'm proud.
Okay, sorry, sir.
You've come a long way.
Undeterred by the horrendous sales of Sonic Shuffle, Sonic Team pushed on with their sequel, Sonic Adventure 2. Now, these came out at the perfect ideal time for me because I must have been, 12, 13 at the time as well. This was the first time Sonic had like a proper rock soundtrack as well. Sonic even had new cool shoes. He was spikier, just like me as well, like my hair was. And whilst people see Sonic and Knuckles as their swan song, I think Sonic Adventure 2 was mine, to be honest, as well. So yeah, great. Not necessarily the pinnacle, but for me personally, the most fun I had with the character anyway. And
first wanky ever had.
Shortly after this, he discovered breasts. Like, it's a natural course in everybody's life. Sonic the Hedgehog gives
like
way to boobies.
Madonna's famous like cone boobs for like just everything for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
true.
It's the spikes.
True. Sonic Adventure 2 introduced the edgy Shadow the Hedgehog, who we all love, and Rouge the Bat as well. And players could even play as 3 different villains throughout the game too. I believe that this has probably got one of the most exciting intros to a video game ever because it opens with Sonic falling through the sky and then skating through a city to escape it with like a kick-ass rock track from a guy called Jun Sanu as well. Do you ever play Sonic Adventure 2?
No, I completely had jumped off at this
Are
point.
you guys outside playing with friends?
Yeah.
Finding that woods porn and
Yeah.
I was inside playing Sonic still.
I was avoiding the post paperboy bloke.
Strangely enough as well, Sonic Adventure 2 is actually the highest rated Sonic game on Metacritic. I was surprised by that as well. And yeah, as I said, you guys were outside. I was at home drawing Sonic Adventure 2 fan art. And grinding was really cool in this as well. Despite these decent ratings...
Wait, what?
Yeah, you can grind in the game for the first time as
Oh.
well. Sorry, yeah, so you could grind down rails and
I thought it was
everything.
a sexual thing.
Just like a skateboarder.
Oh.
So yeah.
More like an aggressive inliner, because he didn't have a skateboard, did he?
Well, no, I guess. Sorry, Daniel.
Yeah. Well, get it right.
Proof I never went outside.
so corrections there from Extreme Dan, king of the extreme.
Skating away from the paper man.
I could actually like do a little bit of extreme skating as well. I had proper aggressive inlines, a little like bit in between the wheels.
Aggressive inlines for an aggressive little man.
Both of them were looking at me really blankly then when I was trying to explain the skates.
We know that you live and die by extreme sports rules.
By
and,
wheels.
Yeah. We know you arrived on a scooter. And
No, I wouldn't be fucking seeing it. I'm not a nonce. Jesus Christ.
I don't think anyone believes me, Dan. It's okay.
I would not be seen dead on a scooter, okay?
In lines, though.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
But scooters are the line. I draw the line at scooters. If you see an adult on a scooter, he has on a list.
He's on the list.
Without a doubt.
Dan's list of not very cool extreme people.
Not extreme. It's a shame as well because Sonic Adventure 2 was released 4 months after the company announced a Dreamcast demise as well. It was a console, as we say, which was ahead of its time, but it was just bested by the PlayStation 2. It was destroyed by the PlayStation 2, I think it's fairer to say. Sega announced their departure from the hardware industry in 2001, and their Sonic titles somehow got worse.
Do you think
surprise?
Around that period, if I remember the PlayStation 2, a lot of the games were a lot edgier?
Oh, yeah,
a lot more
100%.
adult content. And
Mate,
Metal Gear.
You could have put any old shit out on the PlayStation 2. It had a DVD player.
yeah.
And it was
Yes.
cheaper than almost
Yeah.
any of the
Yeah.
DVD player.
Yeah.
That's
a fair point.
absolutely
Yeah, yeah.
what was the system seller. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it had some fucking phenomenal games on it. But that is a massive reason why it shifted in the amounts that it
Yeah.
did and that it kind of won that generation's
Yeah.
console war. It was the de facto DVD player for
Everyone.
almost every teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Is it definitely the highest selling console still? Or is that-
Yeah, no, it still is.
It's
Still is, yeah.
crazy.
I think the Wii is second
Yeah.
at this point.
because everybody and their grandma had a Wii and a Wii Fit as well.
They fucking knocked it out of the park. And Switch has outsold Xbox One sales now as well.
I'm not surprised, to be honest.
Anyway,
Funny enough, Sonic actually found some love on Sega's old competitor, Nintendo, as well. Sonic Adventure 2 was rebranded as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and that was re-released on the GameCube. There were a few Game Boy Advance titles as well, which performed rather well, because they were just 2D. They were like the classic games as well. And strangely enough, one of Sega's biggest money makers was the anime Sonic X, which I didn't know about. This series was catered towards children, but it ended up selling the most merchandise from any Sonic property, ever, which I'm surprised.
What year is this then?
That would have been 2002,
Okay.
I believe. It's also because not only did we have that, we also had Sonic eventually joining Mario for the Olympics.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And those games do fucking numbers whenever they come out as well.
Crazy. And also Sonic turned up in Smash Brothers as well. So all this competition in the 90s, and look at him now.
They're best friends.
Yeah, best friends.
Plumber and
BFFs.
Hedgehog.
Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme.
It's like a Brothers Grimm.
Plumber and Hedgehog.
Sonic Heroes followed from a really bare bones Sonic team as well, and despite strong sales for that, especially in the UK, it actually didn't leave that much of an impact. So that's also despite fan favourites turning up in the game, and it just lacked that distinct polish that Sonic Adventure 2 had as well. From here, things got worse again. Dun dun dun. What followed were many, many awful mistakes, such as Shadow the Hedgehog, a game that gave a hedgehog an arsenal of guns.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, do you remember Shadow the Hedgehog?
I remember Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, people haven't recovered from that. People still meme it today as well. It's baffling. It was a response to GTA as well.
Okay, right, sure.
GTA is sheer success made Sega go, hedgehog, but with gun.
It's almost like they just had the hedgehog in the middle of the board and they were going, right.
Yeah.
It was the only thing they were focusing on. How can we
They couldn't really do anything
diversify
else
this?
from GTA,
Yeah.
like murder or having sex
Yeah.
or anything.
Crushing up the Chaos Emeralds and snorting them. And Amy Rose asking him in for hot coffee.
Oh no. 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog was well received by some people, the wrong people, but it introduced
Who are the wrong people?
I'm not going to name any names.
Okay.
But, you know.
But you know.
Yeah, you know.
What if I don't?
You know where they're from.
It introduced a telekinetic hedgehog called Silver, and the less we say about that character, the better. Also, around this point, one former employee from Sega actually leaked details of how Sonic Team were now themselves working under sweatshop-like conditions as well.
God.
He even warned us about a game called Sonic Unleashed a year in advance, claiming that Sega were making a game about where Sonic transforms into a werehog.
So that's why the werehog thing came up on my Google search earlier.
Yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, that'll be
Okay.
it. Unsurprisingly, despite working on and off with Sega, Yuji Naka fully resigned during 2006's Sonic game.
Can I just interrupt you and say, what the fuck is a werehog?
It's when a hedgehog turns into a hairier hedgehog?
Yes.
It doesn't really follow lycanthropic rules as such. He's still a hedgehog, he's just...
Less spiky and more
he's just
furry.
unleashed. Yeah,
Okay.
he likes to swipe at people because his claws come out the end of his white gloves.
Yeah.
Because he's got white gloves.
Now,
Well,
are
Sonic
the
Unleashed.
holes left in the gloves after? Or do the gloves then...
I don't know. I think the gloves must reseal around the
Right.
fingertips after he transforms
So
back
it's like
again.
Wolverine, but yeah, okay. Alright.
I don't know if it's ever addressed in sort of Sonic lore, but the reason Mickey
Why
Mouse had white gloves is because in the original black and white cartoons, obviously his hands are black, so when his hands are over his body,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can
you
see
can
how
see
he's
him.
just...
Yeah.
So I presume it's the same thing with Sonic, 'cause obviously the bulk of his body's blue.
It's based off Michael Jackson, but they're just giving him two gloves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's all Michael Jackson.
Everything.
Or Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Sonic is just...
Tails is Macaulay Culkin. Mobius is Neverland.
Right, let's stop now. Carry on, Matt, quick.
Always knocking on your door.
Go. Anyway, you're the one that uploads all the fucking audio, so I'm alright.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, as I just said, Yuji Naka resigned as well, and I can only assume he must have flipped a table whenever somebody showed him Sonic kissing a woman as well.
At this point, he's just a madman.
He is.
He said nothing but Shitu Sonicu for the 18-month development period.
He's tattooed it on himself, just in a rage.
We keep thinking he's going to have an embolism.
The thing is, despite the games we've listed, yeah, there's a few. However, there's almost more games that were released between 2006 and now. So we had Sonic and the Secret Rings, which was trash. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, which was, yeah, sure, whatever. Sonic Riders, Zero Gravity, 0 points for that game.
Sonic. I'm not even going to go.
No,
carry on.
don't bother. As I said briefly, Sonic Unleashed as well. The fairies loved it, but others didn't. Sonic and the Black Knight.
That was the one where he had a sword.
Yes.
For the Wii? I think it was all motion controls and it was fucking horrible. Yeah, played some of that one.
Sonic Colors.
Colours.
Yes. Sonic Generations as well, which it was almost okay.
A lot of people like that one though.
Yeah,
don't they?
it was alright because it was a mix between like 2D and 3D. You could play young retro Sonic or like more mature Sonic as well, but it's kind of missed potential, to be honest. We had Sonic the Hedgehog 4 as well, which was the worst birthday ever. That was like a 20-year celebration for him as well, and it was like episodic content.
Well, that came out on mobile, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did on that, but it also came out on like the other consoles. But like the episodic nature didn't work, and the advertising was actually more exciting than the game itself. And after that, we had Sonic Lost World. These games just got worse and worse.
That's the one where Jeff Goldblum was cast as Sonic the Hedgehog, and he has to
I'd
go
like to
back
see
to
that.
Island of Blood. Yeah.
And Sonic Forces, which I recently played because it was really cheap, where you can make your very own OC.
Of course you did. Finally, Matthew the Hedgehog will have his day.
Despite being able to make my own OC, it is horrendous. It's a terrible game, and I think I've skipped every single cutscene in that game. Everyone it starts with, I'm just like, nope. Of course, sorry, I've missed some key games here, such as Sonic All-Star Racing as well, which was essentially a clone of Mario Kart, but it was just as much fun. Either of you played that?
I think
I'm
I
aware
have.
of the game,
Yeah.
and
Great.
yeah, I have an issue with the idea, and it's the same as you see certain toys for superheroes. You've taken a character whose thing is that he's fast.
Yeah.
You've put him in a fucking car.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the shops and you see the Flashmobile.
Yeah.
That's just going to slow him down.
I guess. Sonic Mania also came out, and that was a return to the 2D greatness, which had superb level design, a solid soundtrack, and it was done by somebody that had like, you know,
It was a fun project to
was a
start
fun
with, wasn't
project,
it? And then it basically got the legitimised
green- yeah,
kind of
green
nod.
Sega.
Yeah. And you can tell it's a love letter. I mean, I'm not the biggest Sonic fan, but I like playing that because
it's a good game.
it takes me back to those kind of old, classic Mega Drive games.
Sonic truly stumbled, mostly because of Sega Saturn's performance, the problems with management, and the inevitable departure of Yuji Naka and other key players. Since the Sonic Adventure series, that magic that the original Sonic team provided had just simply withered away. Still, it's nice to see that despite these spiky pitfalls, Sonic has managed to speed on through these missteps and make it through to the other side. Not all gaming mascots have managed that, in my opinion, let alone have a feature film released almost 30 years after their original appearance as well. And as we know, the Blue Hedgehog holds a special place for me.
No.
Which is no surprise after this episode. Yeah, I owe a lot to Sonic, and I highly recommend that you check out anything Tyson Hesse produces, such as the Sonic Mania shorts as well, and his short-lived comic, which I remember showing to Drew and going, hey, look at this. And he read it and was like, yeah, it was alright, man.
Yeah, the artwork was nice, but it was like, but look, it's like Mega Drive Sonic all over again. Like, yeah, good.
And Tyson Hesse as well technically saved the film as well that recently came out, because he was the guy that redesigned Sonic as well.
Okay.
He helped redesign him, and yeah, good on him.
We should talk about that because that really kind of set a precedent for studios listening to fan
To
response.
fans,
Yeah.
It's kind of infamous now that original trailer was launched, and I mean, what the fuck were they thinking? There's something profoundly unsettling. Whether you're going for like a removed look from the original character or whatever, that's not new to cinema and adaptation and whatever else. But it was sat firmly in that weird uncanny valley thing, I think. Like even the first poster where he was like the silhouette of the Sonic character,
Didn't look
and he
right.
had just like these big, thick, meaty calves, and I was like, who the fuck has drawn this?
And I mean, it's
Did they do it with one hand? Because there's some weird fetishization of his. I get it. They're like, he's a runner, so he's going to have big buff legs, but he's also a talking hedgehog.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be realistic. It's like they're banking on nostalgia, and they get it wrong. Like they go so far away from what was nostalgic.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's so much of your audience has an expectation of how something is going to look. The reason they're coming to see this is they have such kind of strong attachment to the existing character, and so to just kind of do that with it and make it that meme worthy.
It's great. I think it cost them 50 million more though.
Something like that.
Something crazy.
Does
like
Ugandan Knuckles show up at any point though? That's what I want to know.
You get echidnas at the beginning of it. And I bet Ken Pandas was there probably, you know. Oh, look what they did!
On the phone to his lawyer.
He is his own lawyer.
Ken! It's Ken! Those fuckers are at it again!
Ken and Pandas Co.
We will 100% do an episode on Ken Pandas as well, I think.
He does sound like... Yeah.
There's so much more content as well
Really?
for Ken Pandas.
Did he get a job elsewhere?
No, he's just been trying to make his Lara Sue Chronicles thing happen.
He's just been angry on the internet.
Just been angry on the internet, and
which apparently is, you know, you can have a
It's the way
successful
forward,
career doing that these
yeah,
days.
you can.
We should try and contact him. Get him on the show.
I don't
Fuck
want to
that. I'm not getting somebody like Ken Pandas on the show. A guy that shits on somebody that like has passed away essentially.
Yeah,
Well,
alright.
we just spent about an hour and a half shitting on him, so I'm not
And
sure
and
how
Michael
keen he's
Jackson.
going to be to... Yeah, but odds of us getting Michael Jackson are significantly lower
I know.
for several reasons.
Oh shit! Yeah, Brian Okura died as well, so we can't even get him to have a chat.
No,
with
you
him.
can't summon him. No. Before we go, Matthew, I've got a little gift for you.
Oh my goodness, what's he got?
And this is
We just picked this up in town today while we were out. It is the independent and unofficial We Love Sonic book, the ultimate guide to
Oh
the
my
world's
goodness.
fastest hedgehog.
What's my
There you
name on
go,
it?
Matthew.
just for everyone that doesn't have the video, because we don't have video.
There's even a little quiz in the back of there.
Why
that
didn't you
can
give me
do.
this before?
Matt's looking through the book. He's now getting up. He's running to the
Pick
toilet.
cat.
And Cream
Alright.
the Rabbit, which I find
Cream the
particularly
Rabbit.
See, I
upsetting.
told you. I can't believe I almost forgot Mice the Armadillo.
There you go.
Right, this is
Lace
no
the
good
cat.
for anyone listening.
No, it's
No,
not.
sorry. Drew, wrap it up quick.
Yeah, sorry. So there you go. That's a little gift for you. You might want those as well.
He's just handed him a pack of
Yes.
half-used tissues. That's not
Thank
enough,
you.
Matthew says.
Yeah. So there we go.
He is actually flicking through the book with anticipation. It's
Yeah,
quite
it's
funny.
great.
I mean, wow.
It's not.
Once again, you know, this character is just, when you sort of say 90s, he's kind of up there as one of the big kind of icons of that time.
He's
And
alongside.
considering how by the wayside Sega fell for the longest time, and how many, you know, bad titles he's had as well. Like, he's had more bad than good, I think, by quite a... Yeah, there he is.
There's the werehog.
The werehog.
All right. That's a bit shit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not great.
If only they'd had you as a playtester. Yeah, it's nuts to see how well he's endured, and I think that speaks to partly the popularity of the original games and kind of how much of an impact
Yes.
they had on people.
And
But then,
furries?
but then also the rise of the internet and people's ability to discuss things with one another on forums and share pictures of, acts that are illegal in some countries between
yeah.
these consenting animals.
I turned out okay though, despite being.
Sure
a
you
massive-
did,
Yeah.
buddy. Sure
Yeah.
you did. Sure you did. Cool. As usual, you can find us on all of the social medias. Just search Gachapod. We can also be reached by email at gachapodcast
This book
at
is not
gmail.
endorsed by Sega or Nintendo. What?
Gachapodcast at gmail.com. We'll throw some things up on Instagram that we've talked about
100%.
for this. Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So thanks very much for listening, and we will see you next time. Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast.
Nah.
Take that, pandas.
Yeah.
Take that.